Hey everyone, welcome back to another recap chat. Kind of gonna go a little bit out of the wheelhouse, just of my regular recaps. We're gonna go to Match Me Abroad, another program on the TLC network. Has strong similarities to 90 Day Fiancé. It's basically people that have been having trouble finding love in the US and they decide to go to different countries for whatever reason to find love, but they do this through a matchmaker, so it's called Match Me Abroad. I've seen previous seasons of this. I thought it was 3 seasons, but I'm looking on Google and saying, well, it's only been this is the second season. And, sometimes the season starts off slow and it's not really interesting. But it seems like for this show, it always seems to warm up a bit. I think it has a little bit more of a higher class factor than the original 90 Day franchise. I don't know if it's because these people are able to get matchmakers. I know that that's kind of an expensive thing to do. Not really sure, but it just seems like it's a little less petty. And, I don't think they have a tell-all or anything like that. And I think it's a little bit classier version to me. That's just my opinion. But I'm not going to be doing like a show by show replay. The season I think is nearly done, and I think I may have done a couple shorts here and there on the page. If you guys are familiar with the YouTube channel, and I'll drop that link in the description depending on what platform you are checking this out on. But I'm gonna probably bring this to you guys, and then I may, like when the season wraps up, which I think is pretty soon, we're just gonna kind of recap that. I just think it's been an interesting season for this show, and again, it kind of took a little time to warm up. All right, so let's go to Harold. He's autistic. I believe he's on the previous season. I do remember him, and he was a favorite. I did like him. And it looked like he found love last time, but things didn't work out. So now he is searching for love in another country. And I don't have all of the information in front of me or before me. So I guess I can put some information as far as the link to the cast and their basic information. I'll put that in the description for the details that I may miss. And you guys can always drop any details in the comments if I missed anything that you feel is pertinent. And if you're watching the show. If not, I think it's a pretty decent watch, especially if you already watch 90 Day and other TLC fare. But yeah, Harold, he's unique, he's autistic. And his last situation with the matchmakers didn't work in the first season. So, it looked like it was going to work, but it didn't work. So he's back at it. He went out on one date and the date didn't go, very well. There was a disconnect there. And because of his autism, he kind of worries about social cues and all of that. So he meets the other young lady and, it's a little slow warming up, but she's open to continue to talk with him and give him a chance. And things start to kind of pick up. His autism is a concern for her. But he assures her that, because he's lived with autism, that he can assist. Like if they were to have kids, he would be able to, mentor that child and help them to be able to get through if they did have autism as well. Basically, he's ready to get engaged in like 5 minutes. And, the matchmaker's like, you're going to scare her off. You have to slow down a bit and, give her a little time. In her culture, it takes time for her to, assess and then meet the family and all that. And I think that's kind of true for a lot of cultures and even the US as well. You don't really introduce to the family right away. But she's kind of warmed up to him a bit, and I think she gave him a kiss on the cheek. I'm not even sure if he was asking for it, but whatever the case, he turned his head, gets a lip kiss. That was a little bit surprising for her, but it still didn't push her away. He's like kind of nervous of some of the things that he may do to mess things up, but she's continuing to go along with him. She's not like, still not like 100% like all in, but she's cautiously going for it, which I think is a smart thing to do in any type of relationship scenario. But I'm hoping the best for Harold. He wants to bring her back to his country, I believe, and he wants to get married. And for the most part, these people are serious. When they get matchmakers, they're really serious about what they want, their intentions. On 90 Day, it may not be so much, you know. It may be the only reason that they want to get married is so that they can get rid of the long distance element, and that's like the only way they can do that is through that K1 visa and the engagement and all of that. So some people aren't serious, some people are kind of serious, some people are using people. It's a mixed bag on 90 Day, and not to say that it wouldn't be on here, but people that go to matchmakers are pretty much intent on what they want, and they know what they want moving forward, and most of these people are pretty serious, and maybe that's something that also separates the two shows, the intent. All right, so we have Monica next. In Monica's situation, she's kind of stuck in between two men. The matchmaker gave her a guy just to give it a try and a warm up. The other guy, I believe his name is Bruno, he was her intended match. She had been corresponding a bit through the matchmaker with him, and she couldn't wait to meet him. But when the matchmaker gave her another guy to start out with, you know, she kind of fell for that guy. She doesn't really listen well to the matchmaker's advice as far as kissing on the first date. I don't think that with the first guy, it wasn't as if she intended to. Things just started happening. She didn't get any notes from the matchmaker. But after she told the matchmaker this, she's like, okay, so you're going to go out with the guy that you're intended to go out with. Don't kiss on the first date. She's trying to tell her don't get physical and don't get all those emotions involved right away, because you need to be clear-minded as to who this person is moving forward. So that was kind of her first mistake, is kissing the first guy, and they kind of had some passionate affection going on the first date. So then when she met Bernardo, the guy that she was waiting for, she already kind of built a connection with the first guy, and it kind of made her confused as to what she really wanted. And so she was kind of doing a back and forth thing. The matchmaker's telling her to move with wisdom. And the first guy is a little bit too relaxed. He's younger. She doesn't want to have any more kids. I think she had a kid and she's in her 40s. But the guy, Bernardo, he's okay with that. He's in her same age range, and he's not really, you know, trying to push the kids element. He's very stable. He knows what he wants. He feels a connection with her. He's giving her all the attention. The other guy's kind of playing a bit hard to get. He's kind of playing games. He stood her up on one of her dates. But yet and still, she can't figure out, which guy should I choose? Seems like a no-brainer, right? But I kind of get the fact that she might have had this physical chemistry with this other guy. And for her, it seems like that's what's really confusing her, is because she has maybe a little bit of stronger chemistry with the first guy. And maybe Bernardo's making it a little bit too easy for her. And she kind of wants to have a little bit of a challenge. And I thought that's really what guys wanted. But in her case, you know, I think she may have a little bit of the bad boy complex as well. And she's wondering if she can pull and keep this little bad boy, this younger man too. So maybe it's a little bit of her ego put in there as well. But the matchmaker forced her to choose. And she ended up choosing the guy that was more stable, paying more attention to her. But the other guy was like, okay. And even when they were asked, I think the matchmaker asked both of the guys about how their feelings for her and what their plans were with her. And, you know, the first guy was kind of relaxed, a little bit too relaxed. And he's like, you know, this is new, so I'm just taking it slow. I really don't know where this is going to go. While Bernardo was really, you know, intent on what he wanted with her and in a future with her. But even then, she walks him out. They share a hug. It's not anything really passionate, but she does seem as if she's regretful. She didn't want to let him go that way. She was like, I guess, put on blast a bit with the matchmaker because she wasn't making a decision, so the matchmaker had to push it in some type of way. And I'm going to probably drop these matchmaker names in the description or something because, I think the matchmakers are kind of pivotal in this story. It's kind of like a symbiotic relationship, the matchmaker and the person that's involved. Anyway, so he's saying, she made her decision tonight, but I don't know. I feel like we still have some unfinished business. So I think he's going to try to mess with her, canoodle with her, play with her a bit longer, just to see what he can do. Even though he knows that she's going to be in a committed relationship with someone else, it sounds like he's that guy to see if he can stir up trouble in the pot anyway. And I honestly think she may fall for it because she seems like she's a bit regretful of how everything went down, though she appears to have picked the better choice, I think. Anyway, let's go to Victoria. Victoria, to me, she's short, she's cute, she's a little awkward, a little nerdy. And she had a lot of different struggles in her life growing up. It probably affected her self-esteem and how she thinks and feels about herself. The loss of her parents, all of that has affected her in her life. And so she's now in another country, meeting these new set of guys. I believe she's in Ireland. Her and another young lady have the same matchmaker, and they're both in Ireland. But I think that's right. So the first guy she sets Victoria up with is kind of a wild card. He's a daredevil. He just put hot sauce in his eye for no reason. It's just very foolish. Doesn't make any type of sense. I really wish we could explore more with this guy's like what is wrong with him type of thing. Whatever the situation is, she basically didn't want to see him again, and she ended up seeing another guy who's a comedian. They had fun together. He's a younger guy, I think he's in his 20s and she's in her 30s. It's kind of a nice age difference there. And she was a little concerned about that, but they continued to hang out and meet up and connect, and they got matching tattoos and all of that. But as far as their physical chemistry, we're not sure because there's been no physical no kissing or anything as far as we know. So we're going to get back to that story and see what happens. But he seems to be attentive. He's always talking with her, connecting with her while she's there in the country. And that's another element too. They have a limited time to be there in the country, limited resources and funds as far as, they have this matchmaker, I assume, for so long. They have to go back to return to their own life in the U.S. and, their careers and jobs and whatever they do. So it's a limited time. So there is a time crunch there. That's an element of the show. There's like a deadline type of vibe that you feel like you got to find this person, right? I really don't like that, but I feel like it's a good start for you to go up there and meet the person and then see if you want to go further. As far as putting all your eggs in the in one basket in all at once at the same time, Harold's kind of doing that. He's just really betting on this trip, so to speak, to get him his wife. And I think a slowdown is very much needed for all these people, because I don't think you should really do love on a deadline, because people can put on that good face. Especially in the beginning, they can hold it for a little minute there. So once you get back home, once you see if they even care to make contact with you, that's going to be the real true test of if this relationship can withstand. Because if they still have an interest and they still want to put in the work even after you're not there anymore, then you know that you might have something that could work. But hopefully this situation with Victoria works well and she makes a real connection with this guy. I think she too also does not want kids, and the matchmaker was a bit surprised. She said, "I didn't know that you didn't want kids. It was a little bit of a surprise for me." So I think that's also an important note to you kind of gotta give it all out to the matchmaker. It's like you're dating the matchmaker on some level. You have to give them all your information, all of your deal breakers, all of everything. You have to put it all out there for them first so that they can help you find the perfect person. In a way, it's kind of easier to have that middleman there and you don't have to directly put it out to that person, at least not right away. They basically know already, the matchmakers informed them on a lot of things. So it does seem like it can make it a bit easier. And then you can kind of open up even further if you feel that comfort level is there. So matchmaking sounds like a good idea. I haven't tried it yet, but it's something that I think would interest me more than the dating apps. And I know that people have been saying dating apps are annoying. They never really work properly. And I've heard it worked for some and doesn't work for others. For some, it's just a hookup station. It depends on the intent. We have people on there with so many different intents, and they may be deceptive. The intent may not match up. It is what it is, but matchmaking seems kind of like old school mixed with new. Back in the day, your family may or a friend may set you up, and then it would start this relationship that could end up in marriage. So it's just similar, but you have a professional that you're telling all your deep-seated secrets to, and they have to vet and make sure that this person is at least nearly what you want. It takes a lot of guesswork out of it too. But enough of praising matchmaking. Let's get into Sarah. To me, I feel like she's a blonde Kardashian. She seems to be level-headed, successful, but she's blonde. She has work done. People will look at her in a certain way as if she may be airheaded-ish and may be too vain and all about vanity. But she proves that wrong in the way that she relates and connects. But she even has that Kim Kardashian sound in her voice, and she's like just very light and soft and airy. And I really liked her story because I could see a connection with my story and probably many other women. Just the fact that she had been dating, and there's a lot of men that are non-committals. I think she said one relationship, she was going to marry this guy, but then he didn't want kids. So it was difficult for her to find someone that's going to commit on both levels with the marriage and the kids, and just to find commitment generally in her age range, which I believe she's somewhere in her 30s. So she went to a matchmaker and went to another country. She brought her mom. She has a very close connection with her mom. Sadly, her dad passed, and that really affects her in life at this time. So she meets some guys, and they look at her, and I think some of them may look at her and think that she will be easy or something like that. One of the guys seemed like he was a playboy, and he was into doing some very out there things when it came to bedroom type of behavior. Another guy, his lifestyle for her, she wants a man with a certain lifestyle, which I respect that. I think everyone should, if you live a certain lifestyle, you might want someone living in a similar lifestyle than you, as you are. And some people want like huge upgrades, which I don't think is fair. But if you're in a certain lifestyle, I don't see anything wrong with wanting someone in that similar lifestyle as yourself. But one of the gentlemen, he was not in the greatest lifestyle. And, I can think he was also young. He was into the arts, and he lived at home with his family. And one thing they were relaying to us is that in many cultures outside the U.S., this is a normal thing. But he just wasn't in the same life trajectory as she was. They weren't on the same page. And she wanted something more to lend to possibly having a family in the near future. So she had to let that situation go as well. But we're going to continue this conversation, and I'll see if I can do a part 2 because my recording may be cutting me off, or we might just keep going. So stay tuned and see what happens with that. All right, so thanks for being here. If you're still here, thanks for sticking around. So yeah, we've been talking about Sarah. She's more than meets the eye. You know, some may not like this type generally as a person, but I think she's a decent person. You can't just judge a book by its cover. And she really showed a lot of depth as we get to know who she is. The matchmakers seem to also prejudge her and kind of give her a hard time. And the guy she was picking was not working, so she was having an issue with this matchmaker. She brought her mom along with her to help her kind of vet out some of the situations as well. So she finally meets this guy. I believe he's in the physical fitness world. I think he may be a bit older, and they really just have a connection. Now, at first, he does look at her and think she may be one of those Kardashian type of women that don't have a lot going on upstairs, judging people by that type of standard. But when they connect, they talk about deeper things in life. She talks about her losing her dad. They form a bond, and things look like it may end up in a relationship that could end up in marriage. Now, Sarah's really wanting to get married, kind of like Harold, pretty quickly. She's in her mid-30s, and now the issue with the guy she's talking to now is that he needs a couple years to try to kind of grow what he's doing in order to start a family. So she's already talking about starting a family. They have solidified a connection, but they haven't even talked about marriage even. But he's like a couple years. She's like, that's too much for me. And I was thinking about a situation I was in, and I felt the same way. In our situation, I was dating this person, and I wasn't saying a couple of years of our total relationship, but I was saying, it was like, okay, once we get engaged, how long should our engagement be? And that's when I said, 2 years is too long for me. But for her to say, 2 years from us talking today, we need to have start this family. I feel like she's almost saying, hey, we need to get married today and work on our relationship, and within this year of us being married, let's start having a family. And everybody doesn't work like that, because I've heard of people getting married within a few months and the connection's so strong, and they have their reasons. There's other things going on involved that cause them to get married in a few months. Unless they're going to do something like that, I do think she could be asking for a bit much. So that's her big concern and red flag with him. Not really a red flag in his character, just the fact that she's on a timeline at this point, and she does not want to wait. I think, did she say she was 36 and she doesn't want to wait till she's 38 to have a child? Something along those lines. And it could be understandable that she may feel that way. But I think it's still a bit much to ask, and even he's feeling it as well. A bit of the pressure is a bit much to ask. You come into someone's life and you're like, I demand a family within a year. And, she's going to have to try to compromise with him on some level. She can't just expect him to just do everything her way, especially, he didn't know that he was going to hit it off with you to this degree. Again, people a lot of times may want to take it slow. Let's date for a year and see what's going to happen before we even get to that point. But she's saying in 2 years she needs to at least be pregnant before 2 years. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like she's asking a lot. And I hope she doesn't lose this relationship based off of her demands, because at this point, what I'm feeling and seeing is just her being a bit desperate at this point. It's like desperate to have the family and the baby and the picket fence. And on some level, I get the desperation, but once you find your person, you guys should still be able to make it work no matter the timeline. Now, not too long, but not too quick either. And I really don't think 2 years is too much to ask, really. I think that is not a bad ask for someone to wait. But again, her biological clock is ticking, and I do understand that's an element in her emotions. But we don't want to put desperate out there, and I'm hoping that, they can figure this thing out, because it wasn't looking too good for her. She was not finding anyone. And I was like, look, she looks like, she's a bombshell, even though she had work done. This is something that people do these days. She looks like she could possibly pull any guy if she wanted to, as far as the American standard of beauty is. And she wasn't able to pull anything. As far as, I'd say she wasn't able to really make a good connection. I won't say she wasn't able to pull anything. I'm sure the guys would have went back out with her again, but she just couldn't find what she was looking for. It wasn't working. The connections weren't lining up. So it goes to show you looks and all of that. And she's successful. She has the looks. None of that guarantees you love and a good relationship. So, that should make us all feel a bit better that, even if you supposedly have it all, you still don't easily get it all. Especially when it comes to love and bringing another person into your world. You really can't make the perfect human come into your life. But again, I hope things work out for her. Now, let's go to Amber. She's the only woman of color that is in this scenario. I'm sorry, I believe Monica is a Latina. I believe so. Correct me if I'm wrong. Amber is African American. She's also wants to be matched up, and she's in Ireland, so she's meeting Caucasian men. It's kind of the swirl going on there. I don't really see any other men of color. I don't know what her preference is, but she wanted to do this thing in Ireland. So she meets a guy, I believe it was at a mixer, and they connect right away. She's very personable, and she gets flirty and close right away. And it's not like a really dirty flirty. It's more of just like a connecting with someone and just becoming physically open and close and just talkative with that person right away. That's kind of her vibe of how she treats people. I guess she's a people person. Let's just say that. I'm an introvert, so I don't really relate to her completely when it comes to that. So she makes this connection at the mixer, and, she finds out the guy lives with his parents, and they had a good date, but that was something that was like a red flag to her. Again, in this country, the matchmaker says this is something that's common. People usually will live with their parents until they marry. But still, it's a thought in her head. Excuse me. So then she's giving that guy a chance, and things are going okay, but she's really not clear on if he's really, really digging her or not. Then she meets this other guy. He's a little bit more confident, extrovert like her. They're having a great time. He takes her to meet his parents the first day. And I don't think she's met the other guy's parents, I don't think. And everything's going, surprisingly well. She was a little bit shocked that she had to meet the parents the first day, maybe a bit reluctant. But, they loved her. Things went well. To me, there was a little bit of a race, or I'll say culture difference here as far as, they were making references to her like other black actresses and black singers and whatnot, which could be a little bit stereotypical and a bit of a turn off for people of color when you just kind of say, oh, you're like this celebrity or that celebrity. It's just something off-putting about it. And it kind of shows that you don't really have a lot of really connection with black people or people of color. And really that area looks like it's not really many there anyway. But she still managed to wow his parents. They really liked her. Again, she's an outgoing person. They ended up dancing at the house. She was dancing with Dad. Dad loves her. So, and then, they shared a kiss, which I think she kissed the other guy too. I'm not sure if she kissed him in the first day or not. But I think everything moved really fast with that guy. The second guy, and all the feels were there. They were joking and having a great time together. But the matchmaker sees that might be considered love bombing or something. I thought the second guy was perfect for her, and the first guy, Kevin, was a little shy and a little unsure. But sometimes the type of opposites attract thing works better than people being exactly alike. So she has a decision to make. She's been thinking about the other guy, but she had an all night, or not an all night, an overnight trip or something like that with Kevin. And he's been the one that she's really been feeling. They've had the longest connection, but she doesn't know if it's the best connection. And she's looking at this other guy. His situation is that, he doesn't live at home. He has his own place. He moved from home kind of at an early age. So it's a little bit more Americanized, his lifestyle, and maybe something she feels more comfortable with. Again, he's also more outgoing. So he almost looks like the grass is greener type guy, but we're not sure on some level if this is going to be true or not. So everything has to play out as to what it's really going to be. And she has a decision to make between these two guys. All right. And finally, we are going to go to Tony. And Tony, he cannot be pleased. No matter what happens. He met a few different women. He did one where you just you can touch the person's face, you can't see them, you talk to them, have a conversation. He didn't like any of the women. He did not want to pursue anything further, get to know them or date any of them. There was different exercises that she put him through to just do something different, because he said he always would pick off of looks. He demands a certain length of hair, and he even, the matchmaker's like, well, is my hair long enough? He's like, no, your hair is way too short. Her hair is like a little bit past her shoulders. He wants a woman with her hair like down to her backside, I guess, something like that. And he's like, well, that means that she cares for herself. The longer her hair means that she puts a lot more work into her life. I'm like, does it really mean that? He has a lot of weird, quirky imaginations and thoughts of what women should be like. And then he seemed to hit it off with one young lady. I think she did martial arts, and they seemed to be having a good conversation and everything. But she started talking about the dog sleeping in the bed with her, and then that became a turn off for him because his ex was like that, and he was thinking once they have kids, she can't let that dog take precedence over the baby, and like the dog is like the baby and it's gonna get too much attention. Like, it was just some weird things that he was thinking that was gonna basically ruin this whole person, when he throws the whole person away off of these little small assumptions. And the matchmaker's like, well, did you talk to her? Did you ask her how she felt about that? Like, if she would get the dog out of the room once you did have kids, did you even ask her any of these questions? And he's just making a lot of assumptions, looking at his past and, what his exes did and connecting it with these new people. The one young lady, he said, You know, during the exercise where he couldn't see them, he said he felt her arms or whatever, and they didn't feel solid. Like she just felt like she didn't take care of herself because she didn't have muscular arms. To me, he's wanting like this fitness goddess, but he didn't look that great. To him, I'm sorry, to me, he did not look that great himself. He was not that ripped for him to have such a high standard. And then the last young lady he met, it's like a couple young ladies, like they really were attractive. The one that did have longer hair, it was kind of like she almost perfectly matched except for the fact that she had her animal in the bed with her, and he found that unacceptable. Could have asked her to change it, but didn't. Then the other young lady, she did have shorter hair, but he said she was so beautiful he didn't really care about that. She was a bit younger, but she had like, what does she have? Like a ring in her nose, and then she also said she wasn't used to dating guys with no hair. I think he kind of got felt some rejection from that, and he got embarrassed from that situation, so he probably just wrote her off because he didn't want to feel bad about himself. He's not a workable man. Like, it's either all or nothing for him. He can't compromise. And that's what the matchmaker was saying. She said if she was trying to meet him for the last time, because he had started to fuss at her and argue with her and say, "You're not matching me properly." And he was getting upset at her. And she was saying, "Well, you're not trying to compromise or really try to get to know these women. You're just judging them off of face value, which you knew was your problem anyway. You're not really changing or evolving your ways." So at this point, she said, next time we meet up, so she's waiting for him to show up, that, you know, if this last person, if he doesn't even at least give these people a chance, because he doesn't even get a second date. He just throws them away. If you don't even give the person a chance, the next person, then she's like, "I'm going to fire you. You're not going to fire me as your matchmaker, but I'm going to fire you." And she did say that he was hard to work with. I can't remember the exact words, but basically a hard person to please and hard to work with. And he was insulted by that, and he felt like she was unprofessional. So he had a lot of negative things to say about her, much less the dates. I feel like he may on some level be misogynistic. He may have been hurt by women in the past. And I think he overjudges women a lot. So he has a lot of issues. And we're waiting for him to show up. And I don't even know if he's going to show up, because I'd love to see her finally stick it to him. I think he's going to actually give her a battle, though, and he's going to give her a run for her money. This argument might be epic if he finally shows up and if she finally meets him for the last time. It appeared that he may have been a no-show, and he may have, in a way, dumped his own matchmaker. I don't know. I like to see the push and the pull between the matchmakers, as well as they're giving these people advice, and some of them aren't even listening to the matchmaker, and they don't realize, hey, that's probably a part of your problem, and probably a part of the reason you haven't found love is because you have to correct certain things in your behavior, in your life, and how you choose, and you aren't making those corrections very well, and possibly you're not making it very easily. I mean, it takes time to make certain corrections in your life. As the matchmaker, you're supposed to try to please that person, but then you also have to point out flaws in them. It could be a very difficult scenario to do this type of thing, but I find this very interesting, very entertaining, and also in a way even corrective. I think the matchmaking process is a lot better than just going on apps and picking and choosing people like you're shopping for something, because with the matchmaking process, there's even some things you have to look into yourself and see, oh, I need to correct these issues within me, and then maybe I can move forward. Maybe these are the reasons that I'm hung up when it comes to love. You learn lessons versus just going on dating apps and picking and choosing as if you're a kid in a candy store. So I enjoy this show. I like what the matchmakers bring to it. I like the going to the different countries. That's why I like 90 Day as well. Seeing the different cultures, the different way people move when it comes to love and relationships. Very interesting stuff. So we'll probably, if we see the end of Match Me Abroad, I like to update you guys and let you know how things turned out, who found love, who didn't. And we'll be back with more love, faith, and trends right here on CBiz Media. We'll be talking about all of these different elements with different reality shows as well. What are you watching? What are you into? What would you like to talk about? Let me know. This is Irene, CBiz Media, faith, love, and trends. Check us out on our other platforms. Go to cbiztvmedia.com. You can also visit our merch store there as well and see all that we're up to, our YouTube channels, Spotify, all of that. It's all love, and I'll be talking to you guys next time right here on CBiz Media. All the best, and God bless.